So I'm recording, Hate's recording. Everything we're doing right now is on the record. So all you guys who are listening in the audio channel, feel free to type questions to us or anything that you want to comment on while we're talking about whatever it is. Just try and interact with us through the chat or the text channel on the WROL Gorilla KHODDcast channel. Okay, so we'll jump right into it. And I guess we'll take it from there, I guess. So, hey guys, we're here to bring you another episode of the Gorilla KHODDcast where we wrap up the events for April. And today on the show we have Hate and Kage.
Hi
guys.
What's going on?
Cool. And also today we have a special guest, our longtime patron at the Zatanna level, Tewtytron.
What's going on?
Sweet. So today we have our typical topics that we have always at the end of every podcast, wrap up the end of the month. But first off, since we have a special guest, we'll get to know Tewtytron. So first of all, Tewtytron, let us know about your history with comics and DC, and then how'd you get into DC Legends? So take it away.
Wasn't a super big comic reader growing up, but a few years ago, I was just watching the cartoons in my dorm room and really got hooked into it. The DC Legends stuff, I was playing the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes game, and the game just kind of became like super complicated, and like we're always begging for more content in this game, but that game seems to have like way too much content. So I started looking for other games, and I like saw DC, and I was like, oh crap, I need that in my life. So I just downloaded it real quick, and I was like, whoa, this is like almost the exact same thing, but better. So that's where I'm at right now.
That's interesting that you compared it to Galaxy of Heroes, and you say it's better than Galaxy of Heroes. A lot of people are saying that this game needs to get in line with Galaxy of Heroes.
Well, they have their positives and negatives, but I'm sure there's a place in the middle where they could meet,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what about comic book characters, or DC characters? Do you have any favorites? Any series that you follow?
Well, I want to start reading them now that they're like on the DC universe, or going to be. I can't remember if they added them all yet, but
there's a ton of stuff out there right now.
Right, yeah, they have all those comics on there, and I want to definitely get into those. Favorite character right now is Shazam, and well, it's always been Shazam, and I was really looking forward to the movie, but I went in with too high of expectations, sadly, and wasn't disappointed, but wasn't as satisfied as I wanted to be. In game right now, I think Silver Banshee's my favorite, just because the kid's so unique. But we'll talk about that later. I know. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get into that later, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Silver Banshee. Interesting pick. All right. Okay. Anything else you guys want to ask Tootie before we move on?
Nope. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Though it's funny because I've been playing with and playing against Silver Banshee all the time lately.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
You've been playing against her? I haven't seen her.
I've seen her in comps way more than I used to.
Really? Okay. That's interesting. So I guess we'll have a lot to talk about that when that comes up. Kage, anything to ask or add?
Yeah. Why Shazam?
Mainly because he stands up against bullies, I guess. Like each hero like has their own thing. Like Superman is hope and Wonder Woman is like love, but Billy's just he's a kid. He's a fun-loving bully stand-upper kid. So
Kage, you could use your Shazam right now on the Reddit forums.
You're funny.
Well, I think Kage needs some more parental figures. So who would that be? Lex Luthor.
Well, I was going to claim him.
Hey, if you're going to be yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about taxes if you decided to claim me, All
right. We're going to adopt him. I guess that's what we have to do, right? Okay. All right. I guess with that, if there's nothing else, I guess we'll move on to the rest of the show. All right. So, as per usual, the end of April brings on our thoughts for the April characters and their impact on the meta. So, let's start with Kage then. Kage, what do you think of let's say the two new characters and some of the reworks for this month?
Uh, well,
We're starting off strong.
Junior, well, Junior, Junior had pretty low expectations.
Hmm.
He's got a utility kit, and his kit is fine-ish. I think his weak point is that his powers are very conditional. Um, if they're half health, he gets heal immunity or whatever other effects, but they're pretty underwhelming. His kit's pretty underwhelming for a utility character, is how I see it. And he's got, after this month, he's going to get no play, I don't think, unless you're a beginner and you don't have any other blues to use. He hits okay, but I'm really not sure what else to say about him. Mary is pretty fun. She's going to be fun on meter comps, but a lot of people are very on the fence with her, which is understandable. But she does hit really hard, I can assure you. And if you're putting resources into her, I would tell you that it's not wasted resources, so you wouldn't have to worry. But if you're looking for a meta tier blue, I don't think she's the right character for you. She's not at all plug and play. Shazam, I doubt we'll see more play after this month. And then Black Adam, I think he's solved the Wonder Girl problem on his own, apparently, because how I see it is if the more meta tier blues you add, like the more kind of options you got for people, they don't have to resort to Etrigan or Wonder Girl as much. They can just use Black Adam. So if they keep pumping out more strong blues, it gives more people options to have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a good take. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hey, we'll leave it to you, and then we'll take it to 2D after that.
I'm a little, I feel a little differently than Kage. I feel like this was one of the best months we've had in a long time. And I really like, I mean, the only character, the new Junior isn't great, but he's not a bad character. He's one of those characters that, yeah, it's not a meta character because I think in a normal month, he would be a little bit, people would be a little more into him, but because this was such a strong month, he's definitely kind of left in the shadows. But I do think that he's a pretty decent character. You can play around with some fun comps, messing around with heal immunity. I honestly haven't got to do it as much as I needed to because I've been messing around with the other characters so much. But he's a character that, I mean, Kage's right. You're not going to see a lot of him probably post this month. But I think if he's a bonus character on certain events, he's a bonus character on this or that, you won't dread breaking him out. So that's fine. You can't have every character be a meta level character. As for Shazam, I think he's pretty solid. I liked him a lot more than most before the new rework, so he's just marginally better. I don't think you're going to see a ton of him because he doesn't have a turn zero taunt, but he's a really strong character, so his PvP week is next week, or his bonus week, right? So I haven't.
Yep.
I usually wait for that week before I play them a ton, since I have to PvP 1,000 matches with them. So I'll probably mess with him a lot more next month or next week and really get a true gauge in how he performs. I played with him a lot, but not like even during Siege. I mean, he's a solid character. Then of course Black Adam is the shining star of the month. He's just ridiculous, and like Age said, he doesn't solve the Wonder Girl problem, but because he's so good that a lot of teams you can only bring so many Mystics, and you don't want to bring more than two typically. So a lot of times Wonder Girl just doesn't make the cut, which is fantastic because I don't see her nearly as much as I used to. So that part of it is just phenomenal itself. And Black Adam's just such a good, fun character. And he doesn't have that. I mean, some people might say he's OP, but he really isn't because he's a true glass cannon, and you can work around him. You just can't let him get a kill. So it's not like you're limited to not having buffs, or it's not your turn yet you're getting slaughtered. So there's a lot of, I think he's a well balanced character just on the extremely strong side. And then lastly, I would have to say there definitely is something about Mary that I really like. She's
I like that line.
That's also the name of our next.
Something about May.
That's going to be the name of our episode. I was thinking of a name for the meta report. But anyway, she's a fun character. She's not like ridiculous, but she does a lot of great things. And Neutron Star, yes, it is her legs. So, artwork's fantastic on her, and she's just a fun character. My favorite team that I've been playing right now is that Black Canary, Donna Troy, Mary, John Stewart, Green Lantern, and it works against every team, which is crazy.
Every team?
John Stewart,
Well,
Green
okay,
Lantern.
I've made it work against Batgirl teams. It doesn't consistently work against Batgirl teams, but it works against literally everything else.
Fair enough.
I'll show you
All right,
video.
Toot-
Even the strong
All right,
Atrocitus teams, I can make it work. So.
fair enough. All right, Tootie, what's your take on these characters for this month?
I'm the guy who spent a lot of money on like Ross and Superboy, so
Oh.
my opinion might not be as valuable.
Press F for his wallet.
Yeah. So as far as Junior goes, I really like him. I think that because I don't like build meta people very often, and he works really well with like Fate and Penguin, and the his animations are beautiful. You know, they're not too long, and he's just a fun character. He's very whimsical. I don't think he hits super hard unless he crits, obviously. But the only problem with him that I have is that what you guys have already said about the affinity buff and how it needs to be buffed. You know, because it just isn't. It's not worthwhile unless you have like 9 of them on your character, and then that's when Wonder Girl starts whipping. So he's like probably like a B or a C character to me. Mary, I really like Mary's kit. She's very fast. She can hit hard. You know, I don't know how tanky she is. You know, she's got that like kit that you guys talk about with the special
chemo
tank.
kit.
Yeah, the chemo kit. Thank you.
She can take a beating.
Oh, she can? Okay,
Yeah.
good. I was worried about just like hired gun dead shot, just smacking her like not
No,
a problem.
she's taking a kick to the face from Castaway, and she, still standing.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean, High
well,
Gradation can still one-shot her, but she has to take a full bullet to the face to.
She
Right.
probably can't take a grapple from Batwoman, though.
No,
No one
nobody
probably
can. Though.
can.
yeah, see, that's the she's not really. I don't see Batwoman that often, to be honest with you, though. And then so Shazam, my favorite. He was like my quintessential tank before Donna Troy came out because he's just so good at tanking. Like, obviously, when you're controlling him, he's amazing because you tank right away. Especially if you put Brainiac on the team, you pretty much a turn 0 taunt anyway. And then like I like his new passive, the give the strength downs on people at their turn. The only problem is that the threshold for it is so low. Like they have to be at 30% health, which I feel like in the crit meta right now, it's hard. You're hardly ever below 30% health. If you're going to be below 30% health, you just die normally. And Black Adam is just amazing all around. I mean, I love how fast he is, to be honest with you, and he just smacks you hard all the time.
Yeah, Black Adam's amazing.
Yeah, there's really no complaints there.
Cool. All right. For me personally, with these characters, Black Adam, like all you guys have said, he's the star of this month. He's just ridiculous with his new rework, and he quickly replaced Etrigan. I was surprised at how fast he replaced Etrigan on a lot of my teams. I run him with Etrigan in some teams too, but there's not much else needed to be said that hasn't already been said about Black Adam. Shazam, I turned the corner on him. I was not that big of a fan of his kit because I didn't feel like he actually got that much of a change, but in the end, he's proved his worth. I like his new passive much more than I thought I would. And yeah, he's pretty decent at what he does and what his job is. For the 2 new characters, I like Mary. I actually invested a lot in her to get her to gear 11. And I don't think she's on the same level as, a lot of the harder hitting blues or some of the more bigger paywall characters in the past. But she has a definite place in the meta. She's not like a meta-defining character, but she has a place. And I think, she's a good character overall. And I like what she brings to the table. And while you guys are talking here in the WROL Gorilla KHODDcast text chat about her HP, She does have a lot of HP, but one thing to keep in mind about her gear set is the fact that she is a special tank, so she has lower agility than other mystics that have tank sets as well. So that means that she takes more physical damage from like regular damage characters. But in any case, I'm not sure what the case may be here. I do know that for a fact she will go down to Batwoman. Not sure about Deadshot Higher Gun though, because I haven't really come up against it that often yet. And with Junior, I feel like his kit is pretty mixed here and there. He definitely has a good place with certain debuff strategies, if that's what you're going for. Otherwise, he won't see as much play as we thought he would. And I think that if you're looking to play something different and have fun with him, he's definitely a good character for that type of team composition. But he's definitely not going to make or break any team. That's for sure. All right. So anything else you guys want to add before we move on?
I'm pretty set.
Yeah? Kage? Hey?
Nope, I'm good.
We're good? Okay. All right. So let's move on, and we'll talk about just very briefly about the Siege for this month. So we had the Siege for Mary that just wrapped up a week ago, or early in the week. And the only thing to really note this time around was the increase to the shard rewards. So if you guys noticed, for this time around, we have slightly more shards at I believe every reward level, depending on what your league placement is in the Siege at the end. And the reason of this is probably due to Rebirth now being a thing. So if you notice that, I think the top prize for the world's famous in the Siege is enough to get Rebirth 1, if I'm not mistaken, right? So you go from 0 all the way to Rebirth 1 right away off of that. So, and all the other rewards after that reward something in that vein as well in terms of increased shards. So that's good to notice. I would like for them to also increase the other rewards, like the Legendary Essence, or maybe add on something else. But I guess that is what it is. Maybe they're just sticking with the reward system that they have in place. You guys have any thoughts on the Siege rewards? Should they still be more adjusted, or do you think we've hit the sweet spot?
It need to be higher.
Yeah.
And that's just not me being, greedy. But fragments, that's fine. I think Legendary Essence could be higher.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it needs to be just slightly higher in the Legendary Essence, just because like they give us like 2 new tunes a month, which is nice, but then everyone wants to get them at least L4, which is like 50,000 plus essence, I do like it that it's consistent now, so we can pretty much bank on getting like at least 20,000 Legendary Essence a month just from that one event. And then if you're like tapping the weekly, what's it called? The Lord of the Unliving event every twice a week, then you're still making a good chunk of Legendary Essence, but I'm not sure it's quite at the level that satisfies our needs.
Yep, fair enough. All right. Hey, any thoughts on the rewards?
I'm fine with it if they add Rebirth crystals to the top 10, like they had stated they might.
Okay.
Because I think that because it'll give you a reason to fight for the tippy top. Otherwise, you really don't have to buy energy for any particular reason. I mean, it's cheaper to just farm. You can spend 4,000 gems and get L5, 100,000.
You bring up a great point. I mean, I bought. I didn't buy any energy this time around, and I finished the top 150 just by playing. Like I did my average, like my daily missions. I got all the bonus energy from that, and just going through it, making sure my energy wasn't capped off, playing the 3 weeks. And I have her at L4 right now, and when her next week comes around, I should have enough to top her off to L5.
Yeah, I was able to do top 6. I was like rank 34, only buying 3 days.
There you go. So maybe this is a good system in terms of what we're based on the amount of rewards and people not having to try as hard. It is good for some people if you think about it that way. But I do agree that there needs to be some more incentive for us to work harder, I guess.
Yeah, I mean there needs to be a reason to shoot for top 10. Now I know the lower, the gear 9 Gear 10.5, Gear 10 and Gear 10.5 don't like it because they have a harder time gearing up, but you're still getting more, like, there was somebody on there, I can't remember, it was a free-to-play player that said you're still getting more shards than you would normally get. And the thing is the spenders in Wraith, we have to buy like we have to play 500 to 600 matches just to get top 100. And it's crazy how much you have to spend to do that. So, from a spender's perspective, for anybody who has, a Gear 11 roster and you don't get a lot of points in Wraith, this system's 1,000 times better.
It is kind of ironic in this game how spending money makes it harder for you.
It's so crazy. It's so stupid.
You have to do more work to stay competitive. But,
when you spend money, are you spending it on the energy packs, or are you spending it on completing all of your legendary missions to get the bonus energy?
For which one? For
Siege.
Well, I always complete all of them anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
I mean, any of the spenders, we do everything but the 11 gears and the rank up, because you don't have any characters to gear or rank up. But if you want,
I was looking at the completion of the legendary missions, and it's 1,200 legendary essence, and I was trying to do math, and it's maybe that's why they have all of their characters at L5.
Oh no, we can't do that because the 11 gears kill that, so you can't do it. But
that makes sense.
we just farm the legendary. Today, just give you an example, this Sunday, because the new month is coming up, I farmed all the gear I'll need for all the characters, and then I farmed enough legendary essence to take the freebie to legendary 5 this morning.
Nice. He said he doesn't have to do work for next week, or for the next couple of weeks at least.
Yeah, I like to have it ready, so when they drop, I can.
Yeah, the load off. That makes sense.
Usually a couple $100, just that alone, right? Isn't it?
I don't know. I went from 113,000 gems to 82,000. So.
Jeez.
Yeah, something around that. A couple packs.
That's a lot of farming too. That's a lot of farming on auto.
Well, I speed force.
Oh, you speed force? Oh, okay. I guess you buy the energy packs with the speed force in them, so that kind of makes up for it.
Well, you buy the energy packs with speed force, but then whenever you run Chapter 8 Heroic 3 times, every PvE Alliance day, you get a ton of speed force.
Oh, that's because you were doing it all on auto anyways. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Alrighty. I mean, with that out of the way, I guess hopefully they'll make some more changes to Siege for the next time around, but, I guess we shouldn't hold our breath because we don't know what's going to happen.
They seem pretty set on how it is. I just hope they add rebirth crystals, because they said that they were going to, and then they didn't, and supposedly...
Yeah, they had it listed in 4 different events, even reds.
Yeah.
So maybe next month.
They made us look foolish with that announcement too. But whatever. Well.
Honestly, I hope, what is it, raids? Raids.
Mm-hmm.
I hope raids are actually worth it to actually rebirth. Otherwise, you're kind of just boosting stats and characters, and then you're going to make raids, slightly easier. And, what would be the point if they don't reward that much, or, whatever?
Well, I mean, it also depends on how frequently they'll have raids in the future too. So I think, if they have raids once a month, and let's say you can get, a reliable 5 crystals out of it or something like that, plus the 5 that they give you from the daily logins, that's enough to take 1 character rebirth per month, or another rebirth level of a character per month, and that's a reasonable rate.
Well, it says on the thing in the support screen that red alerts give you rebirth crystals, special events give rebirth crystals, which raids could be special events. And then, so I think there's going to be a variety of places to get it. It's just a matter of which one they end up settling on in the end. They've announced it a couple different ways, a couple different times, so we don't know.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Okay, well, let's move on to that. From that onto Tewty's topic. Tewtytron's topic for this month was using Silver Banshee and Bizarro in the current meta. And I want to start things off this time for this one. So Bizarro in particular, because I'm using him on the regular now, pretty much every day. Ooh. And Silver Banshee, I know more of her, but I don't use her as much. But let's start with Bizarro. So Bizarro's kit, for me, is one of my favorite kits right now in this meta. Because in this meta, there's so many debuffs. So many characters have debuffs. It's amazing. And he's often slightly slower than some of the characters, and slightly faster than the one he needs to be faster than. The key thing is that you want him to be debuffed before he takes his turn. because I play him on a bleed team. So, for example, if you get a character that puts on like agility down or strength downs on him, you're loving it. Even intelligence downs, great, sure, because when he takes his turn, he puts like 6 bleeds on everybody, and that's what you want from his AOE. His AOE is really really good when you can set up. If he's not debuffed, you probably want to do something else to set up for a big bleedy AOE if you can, especially if you know that they're going to have debuffs at some point in another turn or two. So usually you start off with his AOE, or you start off with his taunt to give him more stamina and to give him a bit of an overheal too. And he's actually very tanky at high gear levels. I wouldn't say Superman level, but he's very close because Superman obviously has passive overhealing. But in terms of his basic's also really good with the legendary upgrade because, again, if you're being debuffed, especially if you're playing him on call assist teams, because there's a lot of call assisting in the meta too, he actually heals himself quite easily. And his fourth ability, his stun is, even though it says 70%, it's actually quite reliable. I mean, it feels like 70%, and most of the time it does stun when you need to stun. So, yeah. In terms of Silver Banshee, now I know this mainly from Ogre, and he plays Silver Banshee on bleed teams before. The reason why he brings in Silver Banshee a lot of the time is because she's a Power Girl killer. Her purge often will purge off all the buffs on Power Girl, and it will trigger her passive AoE as well. And the passive AoE, her purge should take her down to almost no health, and then her AoE should kill her. So she's a Power Girl killing machine. But sadly, her basic doesn't do much damage, but you only need really to put bleeds on. So she doesn't die. So I think she's a good character too. Any of you guys have thoughts on these characters in particular?
I'll go if you want.
Sure. Go ahead.
So Bizarro's kit, I like it, but at the same time, I think it's flawed. His AoE, like you said, is his saving grace. The bleeds are beautiful to watch. Just like you get out of the animation, and you see like 10 bleeds on the enemy team, and you're like, oh my god, that's amazing. The problem is, I would say his basic, because it's like you get those strength downs, right? Like if you face the Arrow Bros, for instance, they're pretty popular always right now. They put those strength downs on him, and then he gains some damage if he's debuffed, but does it equal out the massive amount of strength down stacks that are on him? So I just wish that they took off his death immunity at the beginning of the fight and put on immunity to the effects of debuffs. Obviously he needs them to stack, but I don't know. He's a great character because of that AoE and also because of his stun. And I would more often use him as a tank than anything else for a bleed team. I think he's a niche character, but I think he's a very good niche character in that regard. I've been more messing with Silver Banshee lately and trying to figure out teams for her. When she came out, I was kind of underwhelmed. I was very impressed with the character model. I think she's got really beautiful animations, just like I said with Junior. And the only problem was at the time, other than POT, I don't think there was any reliable purgers, and even POT's leader, the game for me, I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but it treats leader abilities like passives. For Medfill, for instance, I put a point into his leadership for that agility up thinking it would proc Star Sapphire's men's, but it doesn't. At least not for me. So I kind of held off on her for a while. I'm gearing her right now because Orm is a thing, and he's extremely fast. His basic purges every time. Even if he misses, he purges all the time, and it's so good. I tried it on just a PvE match, and she wails all the time with him, and I love it. So there's a lot of more new opportunities for her now that I'm seeing for her kit and caboodle, which is the 30% chance to death wail when a purge happens. So I'm really liking that on her.
Cool. I like that idea of using her with Orm. I didn't think of that at all.
That's one of my
So it
favorite
saves me.
combos, is those two.
Okay. Cool.
So I had her geared to like gear 10, and I was on the fence of bringing her to gear 11. I was thinking of using her with like Red Hood, Castaway, Wonder Girl, those kind of characters. And no, Wonder Girl be pretty good with Silver Banshee. And I just think that 30% to proc ability is just really low for me. So I kind of held off on gearing her for that reason.
Right. That's why I wanted that reliable purger so I could try it multiple times a match.
Yeah, those two work good together, and I do like using her with Black Adam because he purges on a 3, and while once again it's only a 30% chance, it still gives an opportunity to proc, and then like others have said, she can remove positive immunities, which is useful. But the main thing I've been using her for, and the reason I think I'm starting to see her more frequently, is because Down in Troy teams have really ramped up with Wonder Girl slowing down a little bit. And then also you still see not as many, but you still see a fair amount of Brainiac teams. And her 5th ability that applies stun, silence, and crit immunities to all allies when an ally is stunned is amazing. Because that suddenly shuts down Black Adam, because all his crazy crits don't happen anymore. So that is such a good ability. And Donna Troy always stuns when she's on the enemy team.
Yes.
So it's more useful than...
That's really annoying.
AI bias or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even when you're using her, I mean, because she has a high chance on her 3 when you have a ton of buffs, and then she attacks so much that you'll see a fair amount of it. So that's where Silver Banshee is very squishy. She's actually one of the characters I haven't taken to 80 yet. She's only 73, so she's on my to-do list once I have a chance to gear the Mystic next month.
All right, so
go ahead.
Sorry, just one thing. So Neutron Star in chat was talking about World's Greatest Detective Lead with Silver Banshee. So I'm trying to piece this together. So World's Greatest Detective Lead, I think, is that the ability that gives your guys the ability to purge off like any of their attacks, right?
Yeah. That was another one. I forgot about him. Does
that actually work? Because it's a leadership that, let's say, for example, you give another character that ability, they use their basic, it purges something, then does that trigger Silver Banshee then?
I believe so.
I don't think it will.
It should.
I haven't tested that.
Because passives don't trigger passives, but this is like a leadership now. Is that considered a passive, or is that a different thing? Or now, and then at the same time...
Yeah, but it's an active skill, so because it's a passive,
right?
enabling an active skill. Because
you need to get someone to test this, or someone who can confirm this.
I'm going to test it right now.
Yeah, Dev.
Yeah. All right, people... The people who I know test it, who have a high-level World's Greatest Detective and Silver Banshee is or was Ogre. And he's not here.
I'm going to test it while you guys are talking.
Thank you.
You can do it for us.
Well, because like I said, the Medfill thing was upsetting me because it wouldn't proc the men's, and then POT's like purge on her leadership wasn't causing Banshee to wail, so I was getting real upset at that, and everyone was like, oh, leaderships are not passives, but they feel like they are.
I think it is kind of that feeling, right? Because leaderships are just passives with a different name. So, I mean, it is what it is, I guess, but anyways, it's awkward. I wish they would differentiate certain things. But at the same time, I guess they do have to put a hard stop on certain things, or else you get like infinite loops for some combos.
It's going to take me like 5 tries, because even with an AoE from World's Greatest Detective, it doesn't proc for me. So, it's...
it's also your RNG.
Yeah, I was going to say, my RNG, so it's going to take multiple tests.
All right, fair enough.
3% is super low, man. That's why I kind of gave up on her.
Yeah, it's like freaking Atrocitus reviving somebody low.
All right, we could come back to this topic while Hate's playing along while we talk, I guess. So I guess we'll move on to the next topic, and we'll come back to that if we have an answer. So the next topic is, over the last couple of months since Rebirth has been out now, are there any changes on our thoughts on the value of Rebirth, and what do we actually think of Rebirth as a feature, I guess? So, Tewty, since you're the guest, why don't you give your input on Rebirth?
Well, like I said, I'm very anti-meta. So I look at Rebirth as an opportunity to bring up tunes that have a decent kit but just don't have the stats to be viable. Which is why I have Ross at Rebirth 1 right now.
Oh,
Yeah, no, Ross and Penguin are my two Rebirths. I'll be taking Penguin to Rebirth 2 when I get
wow! You
5
have
more
that many shards of
crystals.
penguin?
Well,
Wow.
the event this month, I went like balls to the wall with that.
Okay.
Because I didn't go as crazy as there was a guy on Reddit that posted he went so crazy on that event that he went all the way to RB5 for Penguin.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
very impressed with him. And I wish I did that, but I'm not a whale, so um, I look at it as a way to get those champions up there. And like as far as people I think that I want to rebirth in the future, I'm thinking of Cheetah.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
thinking of Martian Manhunter. Um, and I'm thinking of Cyborg. Cyborg being because he's crazy damage already. He just needs that
Uh-huh.
agility to stay away from that glass cannon niche, but also because he's extremely farmable and going to be super easy to get there.
Uh-huh. That's fair. That's good. That's a good take on it. I like the idea that you're using it to bring these characters that don't necessarily have the survivability or the certain stats that they need currently, but pushing them that extra 10% might get them there. So I like that. That's
Yeah, and even Ross, like I brought him straight to RB1 before really using him a whole lot, so I didn't notice all of the crappiness of him, that you guys see
uh
because he's at the higher stat level. So for me, he's still slow as a rock, but he hits decently for me to the point where I don't notice how crappy he is.
fair enough. All right. Okay, what do you think about rebirths up until now?
If you want to ruin your Wraith trophies, be my guest. I've been seeing a lot more plus 14, plus 20 fights. Getting into the top 200, top 100 more easily just because I'm getting more higher point matches. So it's great. I'm just kind of coasting right now. I'm really not seeing the benefit of Rebirth. Like, yeah, your characters have higher stats, but it's like, oh, wow, they survived an extra hit. I'll just take another turn. Not a big deal. It's not something so overpowering where it's like, wow, I lost a Rebirth team, you know?
Yeah. All right. I mean, yeah, the PvP Wraith Arena is what it is, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, that is another problem in and of itself. So hopefully that'll no longer be an issue in the future. But I mean, until then, we can sort of cross our fingers and ignore it. I'm at the point where I stopped trying for top 100 these days, and I basically just play teams I like, just have fun. And I'm having fun with bleed teams.
That's the way to go, man.
There you go.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, grinding for a top 100, I'm not going to lie, it's not very enjoyable. Makes the
No.
makes the game really not,
No.
worth it. And then whenever I'm just selling for top 1500 on those weeks, I'm having a lot more fun in PvP.
Yeah. A bit of a side tangent on the Wraith Arena, though. They did, however, increase the rewards for overall, like on every league placement, so for the amount of shards you get, also in line with the Siege rewards, that they're increasing the shard rewards there due to rebirthing as well. So even if you get top 1500 instead of top 100, you still get a little bit more shards than you used to before. So it doesn't feel as bad now, too. So that is another thing in itself. So, hey, are you still testing?
I'm gonna
The
say it
celebration?
probably doesn't work, but you have a 50% chance to have a 30% chance, so it's probably
I see.
impossible for me to tell you based on my typical RNG.
All right. I'm
Okay.
gonna go out on a limb and say that it doesn't work because it probably acts like a passive, so passives don't trigger passive. But
Even if it
if
does, it's
someone,
probably going to happen so rarely that you don't
right,
want to count on it anyway. So
if someone has better RNG than Hate and can have the time to test this for us, please let us know and get it on video.
I
I
just
ran
don't think
like
it'd be worth using
6
the
matches.
two to... I don't know.
Well, he does have
Yeah.
2 purges alone anyway, so even if you didn't put World's Greatest Detective in the leader position, he's still going to proc her,
Yeah, occasionally. I mean,
Yeah.
I used his AoE on multiple teams and didn't proc it numerous times, but like, come on. But weirdly enough,
Jeez.
anytime I use Red Hood, it seems like it procs her a lot.
Yeah.
I think because Red Hood's his basic, it gives
Multiple
3
shots.
rolls. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
3 rolls.
He's my
Of
favorite
it.
pairing with her.
But does
Yeah.
his basic actually purge? I thought it was just his 2.
Oh, so it
Yeah.
states that if it purges an awareness, you just have to have a purge somewhere in the
Oh.
It
ability.
can purge anything. It doesn't have to, and it doesn't actually have to actually purge it. It has to be able to purge. That's it.
Yeah.
That's true. You're right.
Because I think, for example, Hal Jordan's hammer, even if you miss on Harley Quinn, for example, it has the ability to purge, so it can still proc that.
I think World's great, or not World. I think even if you use Red Hood, his AoE can put those bleeds on the team. You know, I know I hardly see anyone ever use his AoE. Even the AI like avoids it like the plague. But
I open with his
it can
AoE
help
every
with
match.
Silver Banshee. She needs that bleed damage to go invis. So that could also he's like the perfect like synergy with her.
Well, I
Plus,
usually
we have
open
Red
with it
Hood
because
AoE. I think the AI is starting to model its behavior after human behavior, because I'm hardly seeing Steppenwolf even use his AoE as well. He'll use his buff move
He's
first.
buffed more. Yeah,
Yeah, so
I
it's
see that too.
kind of interesting to watch. The
Yep.
AI gets smarter.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
So we're slowly gonna be, the world's slowly gonna be taken over.
Well, I like to open with Red Hood's AoE because it gives him invisibility and usually keeps him from dying to power curl.
That's fair. It's a
True.
good reason. All right, so wait, hey, back to the topic of Rebirth. What's your thoughts on Rebirth, where we stand now? Do you see?
I
like,
love
real value in it
Rebirth,
yet?
just the concept, because it gives me something new to work towards and it's cool. I haven't really seen characters that are Rebirth be that big of a problem. A Wonder Girl Rebirth 2 did one shot. I can't remember one of my stronger red characters. And then she wasn't enraged with her punch, so that kind of annoyed me once. And then a Rebirth 2 Black Adam is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because, man, if he gets going, you are dead. So I haven't really
Yeah.
seen it because 20% extra damage on a character like that is pretty significant. But I don't think you're going to see, because you're mainly seeing level 70s. It's the level 80s that I see Rebirth that, you notice an impact. Like the Rebirth, but most of the ones I'm facing are Rebirth 1s. So like the Castaway Green Arrows that are Rebirth 1 because they attack so much. They're a little scarier. But I think when you see Rebirth 4 and Rebirth 5, that's when you're really going to feel a difference. I mean, 30, 40, 50% difference, that's significant. So when they have that much more life,
Yeah.
that much more damage, I mean, imagine like a Doomsday. That's going to be pretty scary. It's going to be hard
Oh
to
my
kill.
god, yeah.
Until we see it,
Doomsday, jeez.
I'm just gonna stockpile and hoard all these Rebirth tokens and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean,
Fair enough.
the Wraith Arena is a problem, but, and granted, you want the shards for Rebirth, which makes it more of a problem. But if you're playing the other modes, it's fantastic. So I've already
And the
given
one
up
thing
on
that
Wraith.
many people are not talking about is the color change. When
Oh,
even
Oh,
if you
yes.
costume change the people, they still appear with color to the enemy or whatever. And I'm not a whale, but I've been like picking some colorful characters and just skin changing them, even if I like their legendary better, because I love the color. I want to have people see my team in full color.
that
Well, you
is an
only see
interesting
them in
perk,
color
yeah.
if they're Rebirth. You don't see them if you just do
I've
the
seen
skin.
it with non-rebirth characters. I'd only
Really?
assume it was because of the skin change feature.
Are you sure? Because I'm playing against people that have paid to unlock them, and they're still gray unless they're
Yeah.
Rebirth.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's sort
it
of-
only
I
works
want
with
to consider
Rebirth.
that.
It might be a glitch, kind of like how sometimes in red alerts or sometimes PvE, you'll see like Poison Ivy or CAGA or some of those characters in like faux colors. They look like they're colored in, but they still have those like white evil eyes. They have the white wraith eyes still.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So
I
Yeah,
wonder
it's
what
supposed to be
causes that.
Rebirth. The Rebirth is intentionally in color.
Yeah. Like the
I
way
thought it
the
was
way you
just
can
the skin
tell, right? The way you can tell fully is if they're in color and they don't have the wraith evil eyes, they're like normal, right? That means they've been rebirthed. So
Well, I can
because they
stop
died and come back and they came back.
wasting my gems on that then.
I mean, I guess that's
God.
fair.
Getting play here.
I spent like 4,000 gems just on changing skins.
I mean, that's still a good thing to do if you just want like better costumes. Like for example, in my alliance, we have Populous Michael, and his favorite character is Wally West Flash. He doesn't have enough to rebirth him, but he did the skin change because forget Iron Flash.
Right.
I'm waiting.
I stopped.
I'm waiting to rebirth before I do it. I'm really hoping there's more tokens out there.
Right. All right. I mean, I guess with that being said, I guess we can move on from Rebirth and talk about something more juicy. So we have some previews for the month of May with Stanner's last update on Reddit and then most of the community centers and so on. And we have the preview for May characters being Jay Garrick, the first Flash. And then we have Alan Scott, the Green Lantern. And then we have the reworks being Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, and the Flash.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah. So first of all, we only know a handful of information for each of these characters just based on their descriptions. So, Tootie, you're the guest. Why don't you give us your speculations on these guys?
I'm really happy that they went for Jay Garrick being a red. I think that is probably one of the more important things to do. Excuse me. And just because, like, you see like Lobo, for instance, who should have been a green, or there's some other stuff like that based on the lore of the character. But we do need them to be the affinity bonus is just insane in this game. So we needed a speedster that wasn't a green. Otherwise, you just have a huge all green team of speedsters. And let's see.
I had a Wonder Girl.
Slows down enemies. My thing about speed characters is just because Kid Flash has that infinite loop problem that I don't foresee using him that often, just because it says he steals speed in the description. It says he gets permanently faster. So it seems like another loop for me. Unless they put a purge in his kit, I won't be probably using him that often.
But if he can steal speed, then you can pair him with Silver Banshee and then purge.
Ooh.
But that's the thing. Is stealing speed considered purging?
If he steals turn meter, it won't matter anyway, because it's not a purge.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was thinking speed ups is what I was thinking of, but yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But that's the thing. It's just it's an almost, you're setting yourself up to retreat later on in the match. So I'm not really worried about that. Alan Scott seems just, I don't know, like I said, I'm not a comic book reader. All those characters from like the 50s, they don't seem that interesting to me. His costume looks horrendous. But I do like the fact that he's a magical lantern, even though he's not technically a lantern from like the New Age lanterns.
With the ring choosing thing.
He protects his allies, shielding them from damage. He can punish adversaries with deadly blows. So he sounds like he's going to be a hitter, a hard hitter, with also protecting the team. So he could be viable in play. And then we don't know anything about Flash or Hal Jordan.
Flash? Yeah, he is kind of slow these days, huh?
Fair enough. I mean, that's a good speculation on the two new characters. I mean, what do you guys hate? Kage, let's go with hate first then. What do you think, since you are I guess out of the four of us, the resident Green Lantern expert, and I know there's a couple of owls who love their Green Lanterns too. Tell us about Alan Scott.
Well, I like Alan Scott because he drives his powers from mystical, so that it makes a lot of sense for him to be mystic, because his ring isn't a normal ring. He gets his power from a mystic source. So the only thing I'm not excited about is the fact that he is mystic, and there's so many great mystic characters now. Like the best characters in the game tend to revolve around mystic, so it's going to be hard to shoehorn him in. So I actually hope that he's not a heavy hitting character that you're going to want to just slot to replace a Black Adam or a Wonder Girl. I hope that he brings heavy defenses to the team to a point where it actually is worth bringing him. Because Donna Troy did that very well, where she's worth bringing. She doesn't do a ton of damage, but she makes your team very tanky. So I hope he does something similar. If he has an ability that hits hard, that's great, but I don't want that to be the primary reason to bring him. I want the reason to be is that you get either so much shield that it's worth it, and then we don't know what they're going to do with Green Lantern Hal Jordan, so maybe having, there's a couple of characters now where having shields is beneficial, so
Is Blue Beetle going to be viable?
yeah, I mean, can you make Blue Beetle, can you make it so that somebody wants to bring Blue Beetle to battle? That's going to be the key.
Well, there's a reason, right? Well, maybe there's a reason that Blue Beetle and Kid Flash are the rewards for this
Yeah,
weekend.
maybe they'll be
So
reworked the
maybe.
following month.
Nah, I doubt it.
Foreshadowing there.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, they give you a month where Alan Scott and Green Lantern Hal Jordan dominate the meta, and then they're like, okay, here's Blue Beetle reworked for the third time. And he's even worse than the third.
Okay, well, anyways. Thoughts on Jay Garrick hate?
I'm like Tewtytron said, I'm super excited for a physical speedster. That'd be so nice. Just being able to go after. I hope there's some way to get to the lone mystic on the evasion teams. So that'd be wonderful too.
I hope that Jay Garrick brings something new in terms of what the speedsters can do, because a lot of them feel like copies of each other, like giving each other speed ups and so on and so forth. And it sounds like from his description, the stealing appeal behind it does seem like something interesting.
Yeah, if he
So
can steal
let's hope
turn
that-
meter, that would be cool. Like that would be a new way of doing it. That would be awesome.
Well,
Right.
that's what Kid Flash does on his basic.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yes, but it's. I don't think it's
He throws it at somebody else.
Yeah.
Random or something?
No, it's random what teammate he gives it to, but he still steals 25% turn meter, and that's
Mhm.
the cause of his infinite
Oh, yeah,
loop.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
he
they.
can. Oh, I see.
Maybe they'll give him a purge. We could use that on.
that's
Yeah.
what we need on a speedster. That's
Yeah.
all we need.
Well, I mean, you could always
Speaking of
run a
Flash.
purger though on the team with the speedsters. But if you want to run a full speedster team, you're right. It doesn't work.
You say that, but purgers can die.
Yeah.
you're-
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
I've had to back out of more matches than I care to admit.
Speaking of purge, I kind of did want to talk about Green Lantern Hal Jordan, because he's one of the best. He was one of the best purgers in the game back in the day. But I guess we'll get around to that in a bit. Kage, what are your thoughts on the two new characters before we get on to the reworks?
I don't know what to think, man. I don't read into these character descriptions. I just say, okay, cool. They do shields or whatever. Cool.
They're not Wonder Woman.
Let's see
so-
the whole kit.
It's not Wonder Woman. Move on.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even when you see the kit, I mean, what the kit says and how it plays in practice is always very different. So,
That's fair. All right. Well, I mean, in terms of the rework characters, now my initial thoughts on these guys. Flash has been needing a rework forever. Let's just hope he actually he's now the fastest man in the world. Or I mean, he's the best speedster, but
The fastest to die.
He's gonna need either a stat boost so that his speed is actually faster than Reverse Flash, or they're gonna need some kind of mechanic to make it so that he'll like get more speed, like passively or something, or more speed than he already is getting, so that he can become faster than all the other speedsters, right?
or he needs to get something from speed ups that's significant.
Right. Right. Now, the thing about Green Lantern Hal Jordan, and like me personally, with this character, I had a long history with him. I really, really loved this character in terms of what he brought to the table before Martian Manhunter, right? Like, he was the OG Martian Manhunter. And he brought shielding to protect your team. He has call assist, he had purging, and he has pretty important anti-debuffs, right? So, like, anti-stun, stun immunity, enrage immunity, and silence immunity, right? So all of his kit worked pretty well, except for some people didn't really like his first passive, right? So I can see that. Yeah, that's probably one of the worst upgrades you can get for it. But otherwise, he had a really good kit. There was a point also where the game, I guess you could say it was bugged, where he was purging on miss still with his hammer. So they fixed it so that if you miss, it doesn't purge. And they did the same thing for Catwoman. Unfortunately.
Yeah,
But that
I
was
don't know
the
why
only
they
thing-
want Harley Quinn to be the most powerful character in the game. Like they're determined
Yeah.
to make sure she never dies.
Well, let's put it this way. Green Lantern Hal Jordan was one of the best and arguably might still be one of the best top, like, I don't know, 10, 25 leaders in the game, depending on what point you play him. I'm not going to say he's the best PvE or PvP leaders in the game, but he's one of the best leaders in the game, bar none, for sure. So he's not needing a huge push to become great again. So if you can sort of alleviate some of his deficiencies, and it won't require much. I don't know, give him a can't miss somewhere, or give him more hit chance up or something like that. He could be amazing, I think. So
They just need to change his kit from like the opposite of Martian Manhunter. You know, like they're pretty much the same thing. And Martian Manhunter is such a more interesting character that I feel like I'd rather use him than Hal Jordan.
Fair enough.
So,
Well, the problem is that shields it's too hard to keep shields on your characters. But, you know, who knows with Alan Scott, and there's so many other shielding characters that you give them a couple buffs and make it a little easier to hang on to your shields, or maybe not be as gated with the shields as you were, and he could be solid.
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing to remember about Green Lantern Hal Jordan, though, to actually differentiate from Martian Manhunter, though, is his gear set makes him a huge tank. He is really tanky when compared to Martian Manhunter. But Martian Manhunter also has awareness to make up for his lack of tankiness. So,
well, that's the problem, is that all it takes is one crit from a Black Adam or a Wonder Girl, and he dies instantly, even with a full shield.
Fair.
So
that's fair. I mean, that is what it is, I guess, right? So, I mean, any thoughts on the reworks, guys? Hate or Kage?
I can't wait for Flash. I just hope they do them right.
Okay. Kage?
Yeah, I've never been really a fan of Flash. Like, I like him in the comics. I did not like him at all in the CW series.
Oh,
so
God.
that kind of turned me
he
off.
kind of ruined Flash for me. I loved Flash was like one of my
did.
favorite characters, and then just Crybaby Barry. Just oh man, it's been tough.
They did him dirty. So I kind of just don't care about him in the game right now, or in general.
Tough. All right. I mean, I guess that is what it is. So, with that, I mean, do you guys have any other thoughts on the main characters before we wrap things up?
Nope.
I'm good.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about them at length here in the next podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Alrighty. Okay. So with that, I guess we'll wrap things up there. And as we do with the end of every podcast, we give our shout out to our patrons at the Zatanna level, being Tewtytron, who's on the show right now. So
What's going on?
thanks for being awesome, Tewtytron.
You're the best, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate what you guys do.
Awesome. So if you guys want to be heroes like our good friend Tewtytron and help us keep the lights on, consider becoming a Patreon over at patreon.com/WROL Legends. Or sorry, WROL Project.
Our Legends, yeah.
We Are Legends no longer works. The link doesn't go anywhere. So patreon.com/WROL Broadcasts, and that was my sellout for the month. All right. So with that, I guess have a good night, guys.
And thanks for everybody who listened. We have a decent-sized crew in the audio podcast today.
Yeah.
It helps when we advertise it beforehand.
Awesome. All right. Peace out.
Later.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of WROL Broadcasts, a subsidiary of the Oddsman and We Are Legends. To view additional content and support the show, please go to patreon.com/WROL Broadcasts.